Awesome. So our call's not being recorded, and it's not Sunday 4 a.m. here, but it's also a good day to be up and to be alive and to be a part of this project. And so we're going to try to keep it short to the point today, because the programmers are leaving tomorrow. So everything that needs to be done, we want to make sure everything is nice and neat, so that we can get things going. Right. And so we had a lot of questions that are coming back from things that we went over. And so if there's a little bit of repetition, please bear with us, so that, because people, again, this is not like just kind of fluffy, easy, let's run with a bunch of money. Somebody just called me with a project telling me I can put $500 in, I can make $27,000 in the next 6 months. I said, that's great. I don't know how that's going to work, but that's great. Right. So I'm just go ahead. Everybody knows Marcus. He's a founder of Humanity No Protocol, and the brains behind African Startup League, with over 20 some years in Silicon Valley. We had a meeting yesterday with a guy in some fancy penthouse somewhere in Dubai, and the guy was we had a good conversation with him, but the guy understood what we were doing in terms of the Startup League, and it made a lot of sense to him, right? Because everybody understands that there's a lot of money flying around, but you want to, as an investor, you want to start to learn how to take, calculated, strategic, low risk type plays, right? So that you're not out there just throwing money around at stuff that sounds good, right? And so I appreciate you, Calvert, as well, for sharing the fact that what we went over yesterday helps everyone to feel more confident in what it is that we're part of. And I don't even want to call it investing, but for the teams you're sponsoring and lives are going to change. Right. So without further ado, I'm gonna put you on the phone here with Mr. Marcus Dubois Dukes.
Hello, team.
Good evening, Marcus. Well. Good evening. Good evening.
Hey, good evening, good morning. Everybody's doing well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, morning, Marcus. Morning, Pam.
Good morning. Good morning.
So, right now I'm opening up. I'm gonna log in with my laptop, so you guys can try to do a screen share. So that's gonna take me about 1 minute.
And guys, between all of this work, Ro's still taking care of his family, taking care of people in Africa. I really don't even. I mean, I'm here watching him do it. I don't even know how he does it. I don't even know. So super dude. Me and we gonna have to get him one of them OH machines. Make sure he takes care of his health, because he's just going. I don't know how he does it. You all logged in, brother? Got you right there.
Got me.
Yep. Turn the share over to you.
Okay.
All right, you got the power.
Okay, still connecting me.
Either don't add your volume here, or turn this one off. Otherwise, you can get feedback.
Okay, so I'm gonna do.
On your laptop.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's coming through.
Okay, super. All right, screen share. Great. All right, everybody.
Are you on volume?
Audio here.
Audio here.
Okay, so today we're gonna talk about startups, because the African Startup League is obviously about startups and what the real opportunity is. So you can again get a deeper dive on what the opportunity is here and how you understand what the opportunity is. 1 second, pulling up my screen. So, the topic here, are you recording already? Yeah. Okay, beautiful, perfect. See my screen, it says African Startup League. The African Startup League is a partnership between us and when our internal partners, Wealthy Africa, and when our external partners called the Exchange. Exchange is one of East Africa's largest business newspaper. It's also, as it says, Africa's investment gateway, as well as we've been in the, African Startup League itself has been over 30 publications so far, including the #1 business paper, which is Business Daily based out of Nairobi, Kenya, and many other papers. In addition to that, we have interviews that have started but have not been aired yet with places like BBC, TechCrunch for those who are in the tech scene in the US, and other things that are going to come out here, press releases as well, to help publicize this opportunity. The first thing one of the most interesting pieces is because of our mission and what we've done historically, what we're going to do. We are able to get a lot of press most times in our communities and the things on networking. We're not able to get press. Tell me the last crypto coin that has positive press out there, or any of them that has positive press out there. And we have 30 articles, and we think we have another 30, 40 articles in the next 3 to 4 weeks as well. So it's going to be, as we start to push out African Startup League, it's going to be a lot of attention on it, a lot of feed positive things out there to help you, assist you in getting your job done. African Startup League concept is simple. The concept is simple. It's hard to execute, but it's simple. It is that Silicon Valley in the U.S. is the greatest wealth creator that the history of man. More money has been created in Silicon Valley in the last 30 years that's been created in all of oil, all of real estate, all of diamonds, all of gold put together. More money has been created in Silicon Valley, all the gold, all the diamonds, all the real estate, all the gold, diamonds, oil, real estate put together. Over $60 trillion of wealth has been created. And that wealth creation goes on every single day. So if we want to, again, if your goal is to empower 500 million people across sub-Saharan Africa, then obviously they can't stop with just making $2 a day. They have to have other opportunities and other pathways to be upwardly mobile. As we also look to this now as ways for us to be upwardly mobile, how we participate. Well, everybody on this phone, the way you participate, one of the ways you participate is by having royalties on NFTs. We talked about that. Everybody understands that. Everybody here has NFT royalties coming. Also, another way you participate is participate in startups and ride some of these startups to not only a monetary gain, but also to being listed as a public company, being valuable company worth billions of dollars, I wish you could have your piece of that. So the two ways to participate, especially for those who are not necessarily in Africa, but want to participate, is to have royalties of the NFTs and participate in the African Startup League process. Beauty of it is that you don't have to have an African Startup League to win. You don't have to have a great idea. Somebody else can have a great idea. You can just join in and help it from the very inception. Give you an example of, a gentleman by the name of Jason Calcanis, I know from Silicon Valley, invested $25,000 in Uber near its beginning, not at the beginning, but near the beginning. That $25,000 turned into $100 million. Now, he didn't work for the company, he didn't do anything, he just invested in an early stage startup. We talked about on this call all the different opportunities that people, all different returns people have by investing in early stage startups. Here, our early stage startups have a huge advantage. I'll talk about that in a second. But the idea is that we're creating through the NFTs and through African Startup League, a decentralized startup studio. A startup studio, as you can see here, is a structure whose aim is to repeatedly build companies. Thanks to its infrastructure and resources, startup studios increase a startup's chance of success and optimize its creation and growth. Our startup studio is decentralized because each of the 300,000 humanity NFTs serve as resources for the startup studio independently and without any centralized control. While independent, they will coordinate, organize, deorganize, reorganize based upon what's in the best interest of the project that's being built at the moment. But there is no centralized gatekeeper to block any project. It says 300,000 doors to enter. So one of the exciting things about us being decentralized and what we're doing is that equal access for everyone, i.e. there's always a way to get in. Here, as we talk about these startups, there are 300,000 ways to get in. You can come in through any of the NFTs. 300,000 ways to get in. Now, if you can't find one of those 300,000 ways to get you in, it probably means that your project is not very good. There's 300,000 ways to get in, 300,000 open doors for you to walk through. Then, and then each of those humanity NFTs, over time, themselves become resource centers. So you first help the people who get them get above extreme poverty wage. Then the goal of them has been designed to move them towards middle class. And the third step of that is they become a resource for the wider community that they serve. Part of their resources is facilitating the African Startup League. So I want to talk about how African Startup League works and the roles. So before I get that, let me give some context. So I'm going to jump over here to the top 10 companies by market cap. This is basically the most valuable companies in the US. If you can see my screen, you see Apple is number 1. And its market cap, if you see what my arrow is, the market cap is 2.5 or $2,510 billion, which is basically $2.5 trillion is the value of Apple. One company, $2.5 trillion is value of Apple. I mean, the value of Apple is what can wipe out all the debt across every country in Africa. Say it again. If there was one company that was created that had the same value as Apple, it can wipe out all the debt across all the countries of Africa. In context, it's greater than the GDP of the entire continent of Africa, meaning that the entire continent of Africa GDP is not $2.5 trillion. And Apple, one company, is worth $2.5 trillion. Now, Apple, on its route to being worth that, it made thousands and probably tens of thousands of people into millionaires. Who not people who were directly responsible for Apple growing, even though some of those people are employees. It's people who had, whether they got it from being an employee, whether they got it from purchasing early, they people who got into the early opportunity and rolled that opportunity to what the value is today. Same for Microsoft. Microsoft is worth $2.2 trillion. Another company that's worth more than the entire GDP of Africa. Like he used to wipe out all the debt in Africa. Again, Microsoft is famous for making tens of thousands of millionaires, a lot of them early day secretaries, janitors, people who clean up. In the later day, people who purchase Microsoft later are purchasing at the end of the cycle. So today you go and purchase Microsoft, you're purchasing at the end of the cycle, i.e. the vast majority of the wealth is being created in Microsoft. Just like the vast majority of the wealth has been created in Bitcoin. This is not to say Bitcoin is not going to continue to go up. It's to say that derived from 20,000 to 100,000 is nothing like derived from 100 to 20,000. The second one is you 5 extra money. The first one, you got 20, 30, 40, 50,000 times your money. Alphabet worth $1.9 billion. Oh, excuse me, $1.9 trillion. Amazon, $1.75 trillion. Facebook, $1 trillion. Facebook that doesn't charge anybody, you, any of you, anything to access its platform, is worth $1 trillion. So if you look at it, that's how you keep adding up all the companies that create Silicon Valley, you're going to get to this $60 trillion number that's been created, which is the largest wealth creation the world has ever seen in the shortest manner, in the shortest period of time. So now we go back to African Startup League. What are we doing? We have to create a startup ecosystem so those startups can create businesses that are going to be worth $1 billion. A business worth $1 billion, a private business worth $1 billion, is called a unicorn. And you all know unicorns are rare to find, right? So it's a unicorn, a startup that's worth $1 billion. Silicon Valley has created thousands of them. Africa, China, and we always talk about China, and China come in the last 20 years. China's built a whole startup ecosystem and has created, I think, 401 billion companies in the last 10 to 12 years. And with that, they can power themselves to create wealth for individuals, create wealth for communities, create wealth for organizations. All of this is done through Silicon Valley. One of the interesting things, this was about 20 years ago, that really got me hooked on this concept, is that Microsoft founder Bill Gates said he was going to eradicate smallpox. And people would comment that no human, no man, woman or otherwise, had ever eradicated an entire disease single-handedly by themselves. And Microsoft, since he built Microsoft, and he had billions of dollars, Bill Gates basically put aside $100 million to go attack and get rid of smallpox. And by all accounts was successful. Now, if he could do that with his money they made from Silicon Valley, what could we do? What could you do? What could Africa do? Because Africa understands the problems of Africans. We just need to create the wealth and the opportunities for people to take advantage of. So African Startup League has 10,000 teams. Our competition is going to start only before November the 1st. The rules will be published by November 1st, I should say. And the contest will run from December to May of next year, with the winners being chosen and ambassadors and announced no later than June 15th of each year. So competition is going to start in December. Competition is going to run from December to May. Winners of this year are going to be announced in June, by June 15th. So we're going to get it in high gear here literally in a couple of days, for 24 to 48 hours. We'll get ourselves in high gear. The opportunities are to serve any one of a multitude of roles, But the role that we're focusing on today is team sponsorship. The same way that NFTs, the royalties were about individual humanity sponsorship or individual sponsorship. The individual sponsorship, the royalties, is meant to bring income, which is in the form of cash. Startup with cash, it's hard to get wealthy from cash. African Startup League is about generating equity for the members. And equity can make you wealthy. It not only can make you wealthy, it's making people wealthy every single day. So you catch this ride with African Startup League, you very well could catch one or more of the new startups that are going to be worth $1 billion and watch your money grow, like all the examples I gave you today. With that,
You got some examples up?
Yep. Of startups.
Yeah, remember we looked at last time? At Facebook and stuff.
Yeah.
From that perspective.
Actually, I just had it on the screen. So, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yep, I just showed. So this is Facebook at $1 trillion.
In percentages.
Yes. So let me go to. A second, guys.
Thanks, guys, for your attentiveness.
There we go.
Yep.
Okay, so for example, Arthur Rock, which is now a legendary investor because he had a legendary investment, which I'm showing you right here, took $10,000 and change and became $1 billion worth of Intel Corporation by getting in at the beginning. Now, let me tell you something about Silicon Valley. 90% of Silicon Valley startups fail. So obviously not everyone who invests in a startup in Silicon Valley ends up winning. 90% fail. But they make trillions of dollars off the 10% that make it, and that's their business model. They know 90% are going to fail, but they make trillions of dollars off the ones that make it. So Arthur Rock, an early investor in Intel, got in at $10,000, and later created $1 billion for them. Apple, we talked about Apple being, the most valuable company on the planet. Mike Markula's windfall is that he made $203 million, which his investment was up 220,000%. Just wrap your minds around that. His investment went up 220,000%.
Hold on. So that'd be like having Bitcoin at $1 and then have it go to $202,000.
Yes.
Oh wow.
You can see here it says Forbes says angel investment, how the rich invest. But most families are missing out on a huge wealth creation opportunity. This is Forbes magazine, not Marcus, not Jamal, Forbes magazine. Amazon, Facebook, we have talked about these before. So they call them the overnight millionaires, people who are making money, millions off of these Silicon Valley startups. And just look more examples of angel investors: Spotify, Robinhood, Stripe, Etsy. Let's talk about Robinhood for a second. Most of you may have known Robinhood is an online trading platform created very recently in the last 4 or 5 years. its claim to fame is that it had 1 million people on its wait list before it even opened its app. Now, because of that, it started off almost instantly at $1 billion valuation. So with that, it made a lot of people who invested early in Robinhood a lot of money. So if you look at what we're doing, we're going to have 1 million people of our own on our platform before the end of the year, most likely 10 million people. If Robinhood is worth billions, now 11 billion, what are we going to be worth when we have tens of millions of people on our platform? We'll figure that out later, but I just wanted to give you kind of example of what happens in the market. So Forbes went on to say that if you took this $500 and you spread it among some startups, that money could, multiply many times over. No. With that being said, African Startup League is a critical piece of building the multi-trillion-dollar decentralized GDP of Africa. And once we launch it, we're in the driver's seat. We're faster than anybody else. We're further down the road than anybody else. Now we have the money in the system to compensate and build up the ecosystem for both the startups, the humanity NFTs, and the individuals. That's it on my general presentation on African Startup League. The goal of African Startup League is to create the next 10,000 great startups in Africa. Every year, 100 winners are going to be selected. Those winners are all going to be able to monetize, meaning that those winners are all going to get investments. And we return equity, and turn the equity that they create in their startup into real money they can spend to grow the business. So it's a loop. The more businesses we grow, the bigger they become, the more wealth the community has, the more wealth they're going to pull back into the system. They're going to help us work with even more family snake cycle, more startups, more ideas. Those more ideas are going to turn to more businesses. And once it turns to more businesses, we're going to make more money. And they're going to make money, and the community is going to make money. Everybody makes money together.
So then out of the 100 winners, the goal will be to create, at least for the first cycle, $100 billion companies.
Exactly, 100%. So with that being said, now, August 2, we created Humanity NFTs. 300,000 NFTs are going to be set in the next 30 days or less. Those NFTs, people who are part of those NFTs can then go and create startups. Or if they already have startups, they this as well. They enter their startup into the startup portal.
So there's a point of clarification. So the 300,000 NFTs that we had in the beginning, that's phase one.
Yes.
That's class one.
Yes.
That's Humanity 101.
Yes.
Okay. So that's part of it separate from the African Startup League.
Yes.
In that, in order to get to the African Startup League, you got to go through 101.
Right.
Which everybody on this call has 101 already.
Right.
So now we in, for lack of a better terms, using the educational system, we in the second phase, which is level 202.
Right.
Okay. And so to get to 202, you have to go through 101.
Right.
But we're not going back to 101 at this point. We finished, we graduated 101. That's already locked up and done. So now we're on 202.
Right.
Okay.
We're on phase two.
Phase two.
And phase three is rolling out the new coin and everything else. That's phase three. And those three things together are the basis of the multi-trillion-dollar GDP of Africa.
So there is phase one. Right now we're dealing with phase two.
Mm-hmm.
And because people were asking these questions. So the HNFT coin that's been converted, and is being converted continually from 101. That is part of
201.
correct. Okay, and the HNFT coin is really part of the long-term 303 project. But right
Yes.
now we're focused on 202.
Yep, absolutely.
So when you finish 101, 202, and 303, we got the whole college degree.
Wow, that's awesome.
The
The money college degree
money college degree.
and the humanitarian college degree. How to build this world while making money.
Awesome. So you don't have to wait till you graduate.
Nope.
We learning, we earning while we're learning.
Absolutely. Everybody go ahead, go along as we go.
One thing, if you want to interject here briefly, I overheard you had a call with Caleb.
Yep.
Because a lot of people might not fully understand how it works. But with your 25, 30 years plus in finances, you were explaining earlier how most of the money is taken out in Silicon Valley. And then when you get to the second phase, I think you talked about mutual funds, stuff like that, as the back end of it. You want to run an example real quick again so people can understand? Because most people traditionally hear about stocks and mutual funds, but help them to understand where that falls into the process of wealth creation.
Right.
So they can understand where we are at in the process of wealth creation here with the content.
Right. So almost all companies that you see on the stock exchange, Apple, Amazon, all those started as startups. And as a startup, your first thing to do is present your idea and try to raise money. So when someone raises money from it as a startup level, it's Series A or their first funding, that's going to be the lowest chance that people have opportunity to buy cash, to buy coins or stocks in the general world, coins in this case. And their goal is to ride those coins up as the company goes up. In this case, we have to issue 300,000 NFTs. So that's going to cause 300,000 people to look at the coin. That's going to cause some movement already. But as now we look at the companies that will be built out. So how a company gets in the ecosystem, a company has to be referred by a team. A team will refer a company. So a company has to be referred by a team. Once it's referred by a team, it's brought in and it's participatory now in our startup ecosystem. And I'm sure some of you have been able to see that, whether it was the places that you worked at, or places you heard about, that stock grow, and create wealth for the employees. Now we're doing this with the employees being the whole world. The employees being everyone in Africa. Everyone look at it. And that becomes now the basis for this wealth creation. So the next step is that companies go from seed investment, angel investment to venture capitalists. And the venture capitalists go and they try to sell the coins of the stock to someone else at a higher valuation. Because they know that the higher they get the everybody agree if the coins are worth, is where the coins will start off next time. So they look for somebody to come in and say, okay, here's how we're going to do this. This is what we're going to do. And we'll have a 30-minute conversation. We're going to do this about 15 minutes before we finish the presentation. No. So with that being said, from VCs, venture capitalists investing in the companies. And by the way, angel investors usually invest somewhere like $25, $30, $40, $50,000. Seed investment is usually about $1 million. So to be a seed investor in a traditional Silicon Valley startup, you need about $1 million. So what they call Series A, which is the next level of investment, is usually $3 to $5 million up to $13, $14 million. And then it goes on to Series B, Series C, etc. And then finally, eventually, you'll go public. You'll offer shares in what's called an IPO, initial public offering. And then after that, your shares will be sold in the open market, or people can buy shares by buying mutual funds. Okay. So we have the angel investment on one end, the mutual funds on the other end. The only problem is that by buying mutual funds, which all of us have been advised to do, which is nothing wrong with buying mutual funds, so you should have a diversified portfolio. Mutual funds are on the end in which which very little money can be made. Because all the money has been made from the front end to the back end, not just in the back end. So from that, if we take that model and say we took it model, we made it that the money would be available. That every step along the way, community will be being built. Then you have companies that are going to graduate and instantly have millions of members and trillions of dollars of value without anybody ever knowing that the company was being built. Why? Because our companies, so African Startup League, don't have to go through the same cycle of fundraising because there's an internal fundraising mechanism. Doesn't have to go through the same problems of looking for customers because the customers are already part of it. Think of it this way. Any American Idol winner knew they could sell one album, they could go on one tour. Why? Because at the end of American Idol, people loved you, they followed you, they want to talk to you, etc. And everybody in the world knows you. So we're taking our startups into a process by which they're in their, remember, decentralized startup studio, by which they're incubated internally and then launched into the world, but launched into the world with resources, launched into the world with customers already, launched into the world with a game plan for getting more customers, increasing the revenue, therefore increasing the income, therefore increasing the equity, therefore increasing the money that you make. So in a nutshell, how many NFTs are the royalties there or to earn income, passive income money for individuals.
That's 101.
101. The startups, the African Startup League, are about building wealth and equity for those individuals who participate in the company somewhere that way.
202.
202. So that's it. That's what we're up here. In a nutshell, by creating that second leg, and the third leg is the community. So by creating the second leg, which is Silicon Valley, our version of it, we already have community. We have completed the cycle to create value in our startups for the rest of life.
Okay, awesome. I think just maybe you should add one last piece so people can separate, because I had a lot of questions saying, well, is the last coin, is it part of the second phase? So is it 303 part of the 202? So maybe you can help people to understand. We're focused on the 202 right now, which is everyone here is able to participate in brand new startups. And for a lot of people that participate, they will be able to participate in some of those and realize some of those large numbers that we saw, thousands of percentage. Just like people who are able to catch Amazon and Intel and Uber, those other products in the beginning. But just maybe add a 1 or 2 liners so people can understand with the last piece, the 303, although we're not focused on that right now, just so people in their minds can differentiate between the last leg, what that coin is, from what this one is for the African Startup League.
Okay, correct. So everybody knows here we switched from our HMN to HNFT. Is that all? Some of the unicorns in your red matter wallet have yet to convert over, but they are going to convert over. So no worries. As long as they're in your wallet, they're going to convert over. And so that was about creating royalties. Now, phase 2 is about creating these companies and incubating these companies from beginning to end to create valuable companies that then can either list on exchange or monetize by tokens, find some way to distribute that wealth back to you guys, community holders, who was in that deal. The connection, and then we have a community which participates at every step along the way. And we'll eventually grow up and become the Stacy. Become the guys who sit next to Elon Musk, not Elon Musk. So I like to take it out of that aspect so you understand. It's not you have to have your own great idea. You just have to have somebody find the person with a great idea to sponsor, to be in your team if you sponsor. Or whoever, they need to connect to the person, relate to them in order to get the ability to participate in these startups. So, to answer your question, you all? Or you want to have a follow-up?
Right, so African Startup League, you can sponsor one team,
Yes.
you can sponsor 10 teams.
Exactly. Yep, absolutely.
So there's a church that you're talking about, for example, they want to sponsor about 15 teams.
Yep.
To sponsor a team, it requires 10,000 tokens. Tokens today are at 10 cents. The minimum
Correct.
purchase is 100 tokens. So you could effectively purchase 1/10 of a sponsorship for about 100 USD at this point.
Yes, it's actually not too, it's actually, so for about, you said, $100?
$100, right?
Gives you
Because
1% of the startup, 1% of the team,
how 1%?
because
If it's 1,000,
it's $1,000. Oh, you said dollars, not coins.
correct.
$100 is 10% of the team, 10% sponsorship, correct?
Okay, good.
100%.
So with $1,000 worth of coin, you could potentially diversify yourself and buy a 10th of 10 different startups that you like,
Absolutely.
with the potential of, if one of your companies end up in the top 100, to see some potential multiples like what we saw on some of the screens before.
Yes,
Okay, good.
absolutely.
All right, so we're gonna break for questions, right? What I was saying though is, so we understand African Startup League is separate.
Right, African Startup League and its coin is separate from HNFT and its coin.
Correct.
So African Startup League coin is a team coin all around the competition. It focuses strictly on the competition, what happens in competition. Humanity NFT coin is our main coin, 61 million max supply coin, of which you guys already have, and everybody else is gonna have an opportunity to buy, off on the market from other community members who have it. That coin is about the long term. That coin is about the economy of Africa.
Economy, not the startup.
Not the startups. The startups are one piece of that, but that coin is about really this multi-trillion-dollar GDP of Africa, the actual economy of Africa.
So how is the economy separate from the startups, or how is it attached? Help us to see a difference with the HNFT coin from the team coin.
Okay. Team coin is going to give you access opportunity to equity, okay, in startups that win competition. Humanitarian coin is going to give you, if you own it today, you're going to get a 4% royalty off for individuals off the pool participation, and that's going to give you income. But the coins do two separate different things. The team coin, the Startup League coin, can only, its maximum work is inside the ecosystem, pushing out new startups. So if you sponsor a team, then what happens is that inadvertently, when you sponsor a team, you're creating a path to equity wealth.
Right.
That's it, period.
That's what Ford was talking about.
Right, that's what Forbes talking about, creating a path to equity wealth. Okay. When you sponsor individual, you're creating a path to income.
That was the 4% royalties from the.
That's 4% royalties from NFT. So it's two separate paths here with two separate coins. We're connected, but not really connected.
So 101, 202.
Yeah.
Okay. So hopefully that made it a little more clear. And as we continue forward with our presentations of this project, you get a lot more clear. And also, to be frank, you guys are sitting at the front end of everything. And so as we go through and we get feedback and questions, our presentations will also become a little bit more succinct, and also, we'll shorten it up a little bit, but we want to really take time to go slowly through, because there's a lot happening, so that people can get a clear understanding of the real model that we have, how it exists, why it exists, and also that our founder has had lots of experience in Silicon Valley, which is where he got the ideas from about how to implement them using what we have. And some of the guys you met yesterday, those guys have done big business, but they also, one of them is the top mathematician for France. So he does all the mathematics, all the numbers, and he's a computer geek at the same time. Does all the blockchain stuff. And the other guy that you didn't meet, he's a top blockchain creator, so he's able to go find solutions and protocol stuff, things like that. So that's what happens. All right.
All right.
So I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording there.